HTJ.tax, the international tax firm for 6, 7, and 8-figure investors and entrepreneurs who are living that international life. Are you ready? The book that predicted cryptocurrencies. In 2014, Peter Thiel, the intellectually restless, fiercely conservative co-founder of PayPal, told the business magazine Forbes that The Sovereign Individual had influenced him more than any other book. Today, we want to discuss this book. It was first published in 1997, and the full title is The Sovereign Individual: Mastering the Transition to the Information Age. It was written by James Dale Davidson and William Rees-Mogg. Who are James and William? Let's get to know the two co-authors. James Dale Davidson is an American private investor and investment writer. He co-wrote the newsletter Strategic Investment, The Great Reckoning in 1991, and The Plague of the Black Debt, How to Survive the Coming Depression in 1993, where he incorrectly predicted that, as a part of a deep depression, Clinton is going to be a one-term president. I am as sure of this as I am that the sun will rise tomorrow. Lord William Rees-Mogg was an Oxford-educated British newspaper journalist who was editor of The Times from 1967 to 1981. In the late 1970s, he served as High Sheriff of Somerset. In the 1980s, was chairman of the Arts Council of Great Britain and vice chairman of the BBC's Board of Governors. These are definitely two very interesting and accomplished individuals. They predicted disaster on Wall Street in Blood in the Streets, published in 1987 before the infamous crash of that year. In their ensuing bestseller, The Great Reckoning, published just weeks before the coup attempt against Gorbachev, they analyzed the pending collapse of the Soviet Union and foretold the civil war in Yugoslavia, among other important predictions. The central thesis of The Sovereign Individual is that microprocessing has the potential to subvert and destroy the nation-state. How? The Sovereign Individual looks at the last 500 years and posits that, first, there was the hunter-gatherer, second, there was the agricultural revolution, third, there was the industrial revolution, and now we are in the fourth stage, which can be termed the informational revolution. Taking advantage of this new stage will require a new type of individual, a new type of politics, a new type of nation-state, and all the power systems will potentially change. Most people have no choice. They are employees with terms of employment that require physical presence in a specific jurisdiction. Realistically, the majority of workers will fall into this category. They work in traditional sectors, and some may be struggling to cope with the technology revolution. For some workers, globalization is a bad word which triggers images of foreigners stealing their jobs in so-called traditional sectors. But the book, The Sovereign Individual, speaks about a new type of individual who is fully equipped to take advantage of this technological revolution. They can work remotely. They are entrepreneurial. They are location independent. They can work anywhere in their country of origin. They can even work anywhere in the world with a reliable Wi-Fi connection. They opt out of the protection of the state by legally adopting offshore tax jurisdictions, offshore banking, cryptocurrency, second residencies, and second citizenships. Here are some quotes that jumped out at us from the book. In the future, you won't have a job, you'll just have tasks. In an environment where the greatest source of wealth will be the ideas you have in your head rather than physical capital alone, anyone who thinks clearly will potentially be rich. Information age will be the age of upward mobility. It will afford far more equal opportunity for the billions of humans in parts of the world that never shared fully in the prosperity of industrial society. The brightest, most successful, and ambitious of these will emerge as truly sovereign individuals. So now you have the overall premise of The Sovereign Individual. So let's dive into crypto specifically. Well, the authors predicted crypto, but while they had all of the pieces, they didn't quite put them together. They understood the internet. They understood cryptography. They described decentralization. They talked a lot about inflation. They spoke of the eradication of counterfeiting with crypto. They They talk about how micropayments can open up a whole new world of opportunity. They even touched on NFTs in describing compensation to professional athletes. Of course, one would expect that the more established, advanced nation-states would resist these trends. Understandably, they would prefer to control these sovereign individuals. It is their best interest to preserve the traditional role of the nation-state in directing the lives of all its residents. We see it today as new rules seek to paint all offshore structures in a negative light. Think Panama Papers, Paradise Papers, Pandora Papers, etc. Portray citizenship by investment programs available with smaller, less economically developed jurisdictions as somehow immoral. Pressure certain countries who offer golden visas to curb their programs. Limit legal tax planning by the use of global minimum taxes and blacklists. And share tax and banking information across borders. Here are some more interesting quotes from the book. You will be invited at almost every turn to believe that the coming information societies will be very like the industrial society you grew up in. We doubt it. Microprocessing will dissolve the mortar in the bricks. It will so profoundly alter the logic of violence that it will inevitably change the way people organize their livelihoods and defend themselves. Yet the tendency will be to downplay the inevitability of these changes, or to argue about their desirability as if it were within the fiat of industrial institutions to determine how history evolves. Just as the attempts to preserve the power of knights in armor were doomed to fail in the face of gunpowder weapons, so the modern notions of nationalism and citizenship are doomed to be short-circuited by microtechnology. Indeed, they will eventually become comic, in much the same way as the 16th century. The cherished civic notions of the 20th century will be comic anachronisms to the new generations after the transformation of the year 2000. The Don Quixote of the 21st century will not be a knight-errant struggling to revive the glories of feudalism, but a bureaucrat in a brown suit, a tax collector yearning for a citizen to audit. Our opinion is that this is a book that was well ahead of its time. When it was first published, it was not well received. After all, it predicted that digital technology would make the world hugely more competitive, unequal, and unstable. Societies would splinter. Taxes would be evaded. The authors told us that in such a harsh world, only the most talented, self-reliant, technologically adept people, the sovereign individual, would thrive. What about you? What do you think? Feel free to comment below. We would love to hear from you.